There's an irony behind the origin of the word animation and how Hollywood views that medium. In their eyes, and a good section of Western culture, animated films aren't real per se, in the sense that they are a lesser, less realistic form of storytelling, left for childlike stories. And hence, the rise of realistic CGI in the 2000s gave birth to an era that dedicated its resources to bringing animated films to real life, being privileged enough to finally be worthy. To the medium that's for adults, the one that's considered serious, to finally tell the story as it was meant to. But in each of their endeavors to realify this less realistic medium, the world saw how bland, colorless, and funnily enough, lifeless the new real-life versions were. There's a secret hidden behind the word animation itself, though most keep ignoring it. Animation, or animate, has been one of the definitive words of TV since 1908's Phantasmagorie by Emile Cole, who pioneered the first animated short. Animate is derived from the Latin verb animar, meaning to give birth or life to, just like God breathed life into Adam, to enliven. And animar itself originates from another root word, anima, life, breath, or soul. Emile Cole's coining that word phantasmagorie loosely lays a bit on that concept. It refers to a fantastic, rapidly changing sequence of dreamlike and surreal images, moving pictures that seem to come to life, but made of phantoms that don't exist in reality. And the art of making these hand-drawn phantoms come to life became a staple through the 30s with Walt Disney's works, Snow White, Mickey Mouse, the birth of Looney Tunes characters, and a plethora of forgotten pioneers. 2D went through its golden age in the 20th century, adopting old mythological stories into original creative powerhouses of their own, before its eventual downfall after CGI came along. Though some extraordinary stories and tales were told using this phantom medium, it always had a lingering attachment by the average Joe as being for children. Don't blame the common folks though, even the Oscars still are under that dogma. And there's a strong reason for those beliefs, although it unfairly attaches a negative connotation. Most, if not all, animated movies, barring those war propagandas, were made with children in mind, and for that reason, animators were burdened with the task of living up to the insanely imaginative and hyperactive brains of kids. Hence, animated films not only needed to act as if they have life, but needed to be fantastical and surreal.
If you refuse me, honey, you lose me, then you'll be left alone, oh baby.
They had to be colorful, high octane, and reach the explosive imagination of children in a way realistic movies can't. But the surrealism of animation is not solely for the purpose of kids, it's the inherent quality of the medium. It offers storytellers the power to enliven their characters and world to be expressive in a way live action cannot. Because reality itself is limited in ways people act and express, but the mind isn't, and animation is the only medium that can live up to the human mind's full capacity to imagine characters, stories, and realms in whichever way possible. But Hollywood still lives under that primitive misconception due to an earlier history, still living under old impressions. And even if adult animations are common, they're merely viewed as parodies or a very small niche genre that are rather exceptions.
Bob's Burgers is open for business. So,
After all, they're called adult animations for an ironic reason. There were undeniably beautiful and generational stories told using 2D and even 3D animation. But those stories were viewed for a long time as being shackled with an inferior art form, mostly because of technological inefficiencies to bring those cartoons to live action, or because those stories never got the funding or green light to be filmed. But as CGI became possible in the 2000s, those realistic 3D models that not only worked for animation, but also inserted flawlessly into real live-action films, it gave birth to an era most have known to dislike, the era of realification.
On our reef, an evil darkness has found us.
There are a plethora of reasons that led to the birth of this period. First, because there was a lot of money to be made from recreating cult classics and beloved animations. But two, because there was an unconscious belief that live action is the ultimate and true form of every story, and for a story to realize its full potential, it needed to come to that medium. Just look at the trend. Is an anime doing good? Then a perfect. It needs a live action remake. It happened with Death Note, Cowboy Bebop, One Piece, and wouldn't you know it, we just got a new one. The core of Disney's classics have also been remade for the better part of the past decade. Pinocchio, The Lion King, Cinderella, The Jungle Book, Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, Mulan, Christopher Robin, and a whole lot more. Though this is not an inherently negative endeavor, there are good live-action adaptations which even surpass their original works. The Jungle Book is one of those films that fans loved and welcomed in its new form. I too have some personal favorites like Alaadin, which I enjoy even more than the original. But these are rather exceptions in a cascade of disappointing adaptations. 9 out of 10 times, these remakes are a lifeless and bland takes on classics, because the surrealness and lively expression of the animation can't be translated properly, and there's no film that captures the issue better than The Lion King and how generic and lifeless these anthropomorphic creatures look in the remake. One fan even redesigned the characters to be more expressive like the original, but at the cost of losing that real-life imagery. Netflix's The Last Airbender is one of those entries that suffered from the media and translation problem, in never really capturing the jokes and humor of the original into the more serious and grounded tone of the new one. In some sense, this trend of realification could be boiled down to lack of creativity in creating new art. Hollywood doesn't want to take any risk on new IPs, and its culmination is remaking animation from even 2016. A film that's not even 10 years old, and still, there's no reason to watch this new Moana when you have the objectively superior and authentic take. But I personally have to say, it's a bit sad that the live action one will still succeed no matter what. Lots of families will want to go there and witness that experience again. And not that I'd want the film to fail, but Disney and a whole lot of people are gonna take the wrong lesson. That being, the audience wants and needs a realified version of all animation. And it's not true. Cinema is beautiful. It has all sorts of mediums, all of which have an innate beauties and qualities. Live action is the oldest and purest form of cinema, and it's amazing. It has gifted us with a century of incredible art. But not all stories are meant to be told that way. Some stories need a bit of imagination. They need a realm that exists beyond ours. And maybe some of them could grace the real world. But not all animation is supposed to be told in live action. They're perfect just the way they are. In pursuit of what's real, or what supposedly should be real life, we're losing the anima of those works, their soul. We all went the extra mile, the long journey, just to realize those phantoms, those cartoons, those animations have far more life in them than their false imitations in real life.